someone to listen. I'm lost and I can't find my way. Would somebody save me? I'm lost and I can't find my way. Would somebody save Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna go where people know the people are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of I'm No Joe, your home for all things combat sports, and the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. The views and opinions presented on the I'm No Joe channel belong solely to the person expressing them, no one else. If we say it, that means we meant it. That being said, this show does contain adult themes, adult content, and shit that you shouldn't be letting your kids intake. Be advised, viewer discretion is recommended. Proceed at your own risk. You've been warned. If it's Thursday, it's I'm No Joe. We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, here on the I'm No Joe YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like an Eddie Bravo. Today, as like most days, we have a haphazardly thrown together card by the UFC, as we're going to become accustomed to, but we've got a glorious panel full of motherfuckers here to break it down and talk some shit for you to give you all that goodness. So before we get into all the shit talking and shenanigans here, go around and introduce you fine folks to the fellows I've got to break it down and break into it with this evening. First and foremost, the facially follicle challenged one himself. We love him anyway, but he is handy capable. He still knows a little about fighting. The young gunner himself. RJ, how you doing, brother?
I mean, you said children of appropriate ages, so I gotta go.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. Damn. Almost there.
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. Good to be here this Thursday.
Glad to have
always,
you,
man.
Absolutely. Glad to have you, brother. So across from that young man, we have got the freshest guest a man could possibly ask for, the possessor of the coveted purple strap himself, Mr. Fresho 3. How you doing, sir?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm here.
Excellent. Yeah, packing and moving. And
as last but not least is usually the case across the octagon from myself, the man, the myth, the legend himself, my Wednesday night combat shit-talking compatriot here on Thursday night to talk some shit, the one and only Golf T Vapes. How you doing, sir?
Another lovely day in paradise. Another what the fuck is this card special? But hey, it's something. Better than the poke in the eye with a sharp stick. That's for fucking sure.
Hey, I'll
Not
give you
gonna
that.
complain
I'll
there.
give you that. I will absolutely agree with that. So, as we have been doing the last couple of weeks here, because weekends tend to be just flat fucking crazy, especially with the weather we've had going across the Midwest the last couple of weeks. Didn't get a chance to give you guys a recap show over the weekend, so I do want to take just a quick little minute, run down just a quick couple of the fights from last weekend that are definitely a couple that were worth talking about, and then we'll get into our what the fuck medical suspensions from said card. Then we'll jump into some news here for you. So first and foremost, last weekend, if you did not get a chance to catch it, much to the surprise of pretty much all of us, there turned out to be quite a few pretty damn good fights. Now, we're not going to carry it away and say that it was a great card overall or that there were any absolute fucking barn burners, but there was some oh shit moments that we definitely need to take a quick moment to talk about. So first and foremost, the fucking polar bear came back with authority to open that fucking card last weekend. Sergey came out just looking like an absolute fucking stud and finished the goddamn job with so much fucking power in that shot. Just one of those punches you felt through the fucking TV. Damn, polar bear's back on track. So that was a hell of a fucking performance. Followed up, much like we kind of thought might be the case here, the other Sahabi brother just so happens to be a bad motherfucker in his own right and came out and finished his in round 1 to one up Sergey for finishing in round 2. But another, god damn, that was a badass knockout. I will say, I had a little bit of hope, but it faded pretty quickly when Shauna Dobson stepped in there. She looked absolutely terrible. Not that the soup can that was on top of her looked much better, but Jesus Christ, did she look absolutely fucking terrible. But the other weird thing going to that was that we got Chaz Skelly in the octagon warming up, which was weird because he was the red corner and blue corners always come out first. So it was a little odd when you see Chaz Skelly in the red gloves come out and get in the octagon and he's warming up and he's bouncing around and a minute goes by and 2 minutes go by and no Jamar Emmers. No Jamar Emmers. And then we got the announcement. He was actually being treated by the medical professionals in the back, started having lower back spasms and literally could not leave the locker room. So poor Chaz Skelly literally made the walk to not have to have made the walk. He could have stayed in the locker room. The one thing I will say, if there is a silver lining to poor Chaz Skelly not actually getting to get into that octagon and fight, is that he had all that pent up emotion from the camp and then the walk and then getting in the octagon to find out that he wasn't going to fight. And he didn't let it go to waste. He turned around and went to the media tent, grabbed a microphone and serenaded the reporters with a heartfelt rendition of Fuck Her Gently by Tenacious D, done a cappella. Bravo, sir. It takes a set of brass ones to get up there like that. Anybody can get behind a microphone and say my balls was hot. He got up there and he belted it out for all he was fucking worth. He gave her the old college dry. Hats off for that, because I don't think I could have done that stone cold sober like he did. And he did it. If you haven't seen the clip, it's all over Instagram and Facebook, and I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube by now. Man, that I don't understand how the D couldn't be proud of that themselves. That haha moment I had to make sure to inject, because that brings us to the point where I was ready to throw my remote through the television. The Nate Landwehr match. Credit to Juicy J. They both came out fucking swanging, folks. Like we told you, there is no fucking way that Nate Landwehr can be in a boring fight. He's allergic to it. He breaks out in punches. It doesn't happen. And Juicy J came to fucking play. Those boys got out and were swanging right out of the fucking gate. Jay got fucking rocked and got dropped, and he got up and he fucking rocked Nate, and he kind of dropped and he got back up, and they kind of scrapped back at it like angry fucking bobcats. And then Juicy J landed a clean shot, and as Landwehr went back and Juicy J was coming in on him, Landwehr was pushing off the cage with one hand and guarding his face with the other, and the fucking referee jumped in. They showed us 9 million replays from 750 fucking angles. I did not see a single replay from a single fucking angle where Nate Landwehr lost consciousness or stopped intelligently defending himself, including falling onto the fucking cage and still keeping a hand up to block his face. But they stopped the fight, and that's on the fucking referee. That's infuriating. This is the kind of shit that gets people aggravated. It was one thing when Mario Yamasaki would let a guy take 3 more punches than he needed to. That was considered giving the guy a chance. But now the pendulum has almost swung so far to the other direction that the second you get hit, a referee is ready to jump right in and stop the goddamn fight, regardless of the situation or the person or the actual impact of the punch, regardless of the appearance of it. And our boy, the Nate Train, was a victim of a referee not being where he should have been and not knowing what the fuck he was actually looking at, because immediately after the stoppage, you see everyone in the fucking apex immediately looking up at all of the fucking screens, because there's a shit ton of screens in there, at all of those different angles from all of the replays and all the slow-mos. And credit where credit is due. Juicy J and Nate, shook hands, corners shook hands. Everything was respectful and admirable. But man, this is the kind of bullshit that gets people watching MMA and then turning out of MMA, because this is the kind of shit that people are like, oh, well, that's fucking wrestling style. He knocked him down, but he didn't knock him out. And the referee was like, oh, don't let him get hurt in a cage where they're punching each other for a fucking living. God forbid one guy get knocked backwards after they both just took turns knocking each other backwards.
Yeah, that was one of the, like, I tuned out for the rest of the night. I caught replays after that. Like, I watched that. I was like, where was the knockout? That was an early stoppage. And I mean, granted, I'm a big Nate Train fan. I'm on that Nate Train, and
likewise.
Yeah, it's completely unfair to the fighter. Like, you have to let a couple more shots go. Not like the main event. I mean, that was over.
Right.
That was over. But it was like he was getting back up to throw more fights. We were getting into what could have been the most exciting fight of the night.
Fuck yeah.
They had just thrown punches like fucking spider monkeys bouncing off the cage at each other. It was fucking fantastic. And then in the knee caught him. I was like, oh shit, he's not out. He's getting back. Oh, he's stopping it.
Yep.
Fuck. So yeah, I watched replays of everything after this point. I was just like, nope, I'm done.
Generally, I try not to get too pissed off when there's controversial stoppages in a fight where I'm looking for one guy to win, because I'm not even trying to hide the fact that I'm fucking Team Nate Train, shoot, motherfucker. Like, I'm not even ashamed to admit that I'm full fucking homer for Landwehr, and I don't give a fuck. But I'm also capable of being objective. I make a point to say you give credit where credit is due. And Juicy J landed some good shots, but there was no fucking knockout in that. And I try not to harp too much on shit like this, with the exception of times just like this, where when that fight stops, within a fucking Timex minute, I got multiple messages from multiple people who are full fucking casual asking me what the fuck they just saw. It's one thing when some of us hardcores are too rabid and too in the moment. It's a whole nother ball game when I have friends who barely ever, if ever, watched UFC and were watching this and immediately send me a message and ask me, what the fuck was that? How is that fucking right? It's not like it's going to make it right. It's not like us being angry is going to overturn it, but it's one of those things that it's not just something that those of us who are clearly looking for someone to win saw because we wanted someone else to win. This is a situation where we legitimately, on multiple occasions throughout this evening, had bad refereeing or bad judging go through. The hard part is that coming out of this fight, there wasn't really a whole lot on the prelims left to get excited for. So this is the point where, much like Fresh, most of us just kind of made sure we had fresh popcorn or got ourselves a new wobble pop or, let the dog out to go do their business. But the good news is when the main card came back, things got interesting again real goddamn quick. And it's kind of the opposite of the last one we talk about, where Landwehr never stopped, never quit, never went out, but still got stopped. Then we come to Tom Aspinall and Andre Arlovski, and Tom Aspinall just had every dial turned to 11 when he stepped in that octagon, and Arlovski was sitting on fours. He barely looked like he knew what he was doing, that he even was in the cage with somebody, let alone somebody who was putting it on him from the fucking get-go like Aspinall was. And the really fucked up part about it is the choke that Aspinall put on Arlovski was a very beautiful technical submission. The thing that makes me chuckle and be snide about it is the fact that when Aspinall had one arm in, before he locks the grip with the second arm, Arlovski is literally bug-eyed and reaching up to tap already. And the second the grip actually gets locked in, before he even gets torsion against that chin, the pit bull is tapping like Flipper over here, trying to get some fucking tuna fish, just giving her all she's worth, trying to get the fuck out of there, and had no problem with the referee saving him immediately. This is one of those things why hardcore rabid fans like us make a point to say, put the gloves down and pick up the fishing pole. You didn't just get manhandled, thrown down, and choked the fuck out by a young gun. You got caught off guard by a guy who was clearly more ready for this fight than you were. And you got the basic premise of a submission threat applied to you and could not get out of there fast enough. That's not what it takes to be anything relevant in the UFC heavyweight division in 2021. You can't be afraid to fight in the heavyweight division of the UFC in 2021 and think you have a place on the fucking roster. It just doesn't work that way. There's no fucking way. And Arlovski showed us exactly that. He has no want to be in that octagon anymore, other than to get that paycheck. He doesn't have the fight in him anymore. And it's not even kinda visible. It's clearly visible. And for a guy who's been around as long as Andre has, there are other options, and it's realistically time to start looking into them. Because if he's going to do something like that against a Tom Aspinall who really didn't have much into the choke that quote unquote submitted Andre, he's going to have a real big problem when the likes of a John Jones are fighting around the bend. or an Alistair Overeem is fighting around the bend, or Rozenstruik is coming around the bend. When you get some of these real hard hitting motherfuckers coming in who are going to do some serious damage, that's a problem. And not that Aspinall can't get there. He just isn't there yet. He's still just a little rough around the edges. He's looking great. He's on the right track. That's for goddamn sure. He just isn't quite there yet. He's still a little rough around the edges. But some of these finer, polished, big guys in the heavyweight division would have fucking killed him Saturday night. They would have sent his fucking soul astral projecting before the fucking night was over. He got very lucky that he was in there against Aspinall, and Aspinall wanted that fucking submission because he saw how easy it was going to be to get it. It's time for Andre to hang him the fuck up, though.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that submission was barely beginning to take shape when he was tapping. It was like, dude, you really need to get out of this game. Like, I get it. Arlovski's name still carries a lot of value, especially with these young gunners. But he really needs to step away because there's some dudes out there that would hurt him badly, just to make a name. And it's like Arlovski can still keep pulling paychecks from Dana. Like Dana will probably keep feeding him people, and it's just not going to turn out well. And there's so much knowledge in that mind that I would like to see him get out of the game with that mind intact. You know, no offense to Tom Aspinall, but like if you got in there with someone up there towards the top who's like, fuck it, I need a name tattooed into my belt, like really bad things could happen to Andre Arlovski, and I do not want to see it. I don't like seeing the legends of the sport just getting toted back out and just rolled out there for someone to steamroll them. So yeah, that's what I hope this was enough of an eye opener where he's like, all right, I should probably hang this up. But
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah, to be honest, that was hard to watch. It looked like he just didn't want to be there to start with. There was no pep in his step or anything. Like from the second he got checked in at the check-in, the second he crossed that threshold into the octagon, it looked like there was nothing there. Like, he's honestly the shell of the former champion that we know.
Yeah, literally.
To be honest, I don't think the only thing that carries any clout right now is his name. That's it.
That mouthpiece.
He's literally just a shell. Like,
yep.
You see a shell and his trademark mouthpiece. That's it. At that point, there's nothing left to him. And all due respect to Tom Aspinall, he put a fucking ass whipping on him from the start of that belt to the fucking, what the fuck is this? Why are you tapping, choking the early beginning of the second? But he just doesn't need to be there. And the worst part of that for me, not the fact that he got beat or he did a quick tap out because he didn't want to be there. It was the fact that we didn't see him drop the gloves in the middle of the fucking octagon at the end. That was the worst part of that because, unfortunately, he is not one of Dana's friends. So Dana is not going to save him and get him out of here. Dana is going to use the name and let him be steamrolled by more Tom Aspinalls. And there's no offense against Tom Aspinall, but he is that young up-and-comer who we've seen be a complete fucking animal. And so here, let's give him a big name so that we have a reason to throw him up to somebody heavier in the division. Like, I bet you he might get a top 10 opponent next off of this.
That's what a lot of people are saying, is that realistically, with the top 5 basically already completely tied up, he's not getting a title shot off of that fight, but he most likely is going to get somebody in the top 10 off of that win. And he just choked out Andre Arlovski in the second.
To be honest, I think he does deserve his top 10 spot. Maybe not because of the Arlovski fight, but because of what we've seen him do in his 3 fights so far in the UFC. Overall, yes, he's got what it takes to be fighting the big boys up there. I mean, to be honest, I'd be pissed if they gave him something less than 10 right now. Because to be honest, I think he deserves it because that'll give us a true idea
real
of
read.
where he is in that heavyweight division. But
Agreed.
to be honest, right now, I'm not gonna lie. 3 fights in, Tom Aspinall's a fucking animal, and I can't wait to see what the fuck he does next.
Yeah, not looking too fucking shabby at all. I will absolutely agree with that.
I just hope Arlovski takes this time after the fight. I know we're only a week out now, but I hope he's done some major thinking or is doing some major thinking on thinking about retiring because, man, I hate to see it. I don't want to see him in the octagon again. In fact, I think if we see a fight card pop up with his name on it again anytime soon, maybe we ought to do a change.org petition to get him to stop fighting, you know?
Right. Lay him the
And
fuck
not
down.
because I dislike the man, because I have a lot of respect for what he's done for the sport, but because I don't want to see him fuck his life up.
Yeah. There's only so many of those where you can get quote unquote choked out.
Yeah. And to be honest, he got the easy way out compared to what it should have been.
Yes, he fucking did.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's, like, if he steps away today, he could still do so much with what he still has because he doesn't have any sort of brain damage currently that is detectable. He can do CTE scans, do all that, see where he's at mentally. Like, he's still physically capable of doing things with his life. He can still stay in the UFC, do commentating, do coaching, shit like that. That's still something to keep your name on UFC. That keeps you involved with the industry that you love, the industry that made you what you are. Fucking just put him down. Stay with the industry. Open up fucking gyms. Start running gyms. Start training other fucking MMA fighters while you're mentally there and you're mentally capable of maintaining a gym and doing shit like that. Or fucking step away, do investments, stay at home with your family. You have fucking options,
Something.
man. You have options. You're still mentally there. You're still physically capable of fucking walking around. Chill out, get into investments, make your own businesses, do your fucking thing, chill at home with the family. Something to stop fucking fighting.
Shit, even GSP's hawking fucking CBD on Facebook nowadays.
Exactly.
No, that was one of those situations where I knew it was bad, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad because, like TJ said, you could see as soon as he got done getting checked in, just walking into the cage, he looked like he was on autopilot, like he was going through the motions. He's not excited. He didn't give a shit. Just really kind of phoning it in. And that sucked. That sucks to see when you know a guy's not in it going into a fight. You know he's not going to be in it when the moment comes. And when you're facing these fucking young guns and you're a fucking old dog in the yard, man, you can't afford to just fucking wing it. And that's what he did, and it didn't fucking work. So hopefully something happens for his future's betterment sooner rather than later. The good thing, though, coming out of that fight, we learned exactly what we were wondering about when we talked about this fight last week. Was the first time we saw Philip Hawes a 15-second fluke? Did he come out and land a lucky shot and just happen to be in the right place at the right time and he's going to sizzle like so many of these other firework new fighters that we've seen come and go already? And the answer is fuck no. That dude is the real deal. There was no fluke about it. He came in there looking like an absolute fucking beefcake and put on a hard 15-minute fucking battle and controlled damn near every fucking second of it. Imavov just could not fucking figure him out. And Philip Hawes looked really goddamn good. If he can stay consistent with what we saw this weekend, That dude is about to be a very serious threat for a lot of guys in that division. Middleweight needs new blood with Izzy moving up, and that motherfucker is going to skyrocket if he stays on that path. I'm telling you right fucking now. That boy's got a future if he sticks with it. Another one of those Arlovski-esque kind of moments. I said it last week, and I didn't realize I was going to answer myself so fucking quickly. I said I'm going to root for the dad body constrictor until he gives me a reason not to. Well, the reason not to just happened to be named Chris Dawkins. Not to take anything away from Chris Dawkins by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, credit where credit is due, but similar to that Tom Aspinall moment, Olenek just didn't look switched on when he got in that cage, and Dawkins was the exact opposite. The second he stepped in, that motherfucker felt the electricity going through him, and he didn't waste a split fucking second of that octagon time. He came in and just started fucking teeing off on the old man. And you can't do that if your name's Andre Arlovski, and you can't do that if your name is Alexei Olenek. You can't leave your chin open to these fucking young guys thinking that your experience is going to carry you through a fight to a point where you can start to take over, because these young guys are too quick and they're too fucking strong, and them old chins just can't fucking take it anymore. And sure enough, good fucking clip from Aspinall is what put Arlovski to his fucking knee, and then that choke came in. Well, Dawkins had no reason for a choke. He just put the old man down. Props to Dawkins, but god damn, that dad body constrictor might have found the upper echelon of where his ability is going to realistically keep him in the UFC. We're at that point with Arlovski where the young gunners are teeing the fuck off on you because you're a name. Realistically, Arlovski versus Olenek, loser hangs it up, winner gets one more soup can.
I kind of agree with that. And it's been a couple fights now that we've seen dad body constrictor get clipped, and that was it. Like there was just nothing left in him. I mean, granted, he's been in about 500 UFC fights, so
Absolutely.
you know, dad body constrictor. He's been around, and he's shown way more life than Arlovski has recently. But it's getting time. It's getting time for dad body to say this is enough, and hopefully, I hope that he gets a little bit better fight than Arlovski's gonna get, because like I said, he's shown more recently. But there's, like I said, there's a couple fights in a row where he just got turned the fuck off. Is it 2 in a row that he's gotten knocked out? Or 2 of 3? It's either 2 in a row or 2 of 3 that he's gotten turned off. So, I mean, that's a pretty good sign. It's a pretty good sign that it's time to start thinking, hey, maybe I can't keep up with these guys anymore. But we'll see. We'll see what old dad bod does.
Yeah, that's 2 in a row. His last fight prior to Dawkins was against somebody in the main event, which was one Mr. Derek Lewis, who properly fucking shut the lights out on him.
Right.
And now he's gotten put out again. Prior to that, he had 2 wins. I mean, I don't think he's in that same category as I can't place him in the same category as Arlovski, because in the last, hell, he's had a win in the last year. He won once last year. I think he had, or twice last year. I don't remember if he had 3 fights or 2 last year, but I know his last fight last year was against Derek Lewis, and he lost. Prior to that, I think it was Verdum, and he beat Verdum, which that's not saying a lot because Verdum is fucking long in the tooth too, but still,
Right.
I mean, he still had some credible wins that were actually finishes. They weren't just go to decision. But anyhow, yeah, that's definitely watching 2 getting slept back-to-back fights for him. It's making me starting to question him. I can't say I'm going to root against him because I won't. I do like the fucking boa constrictor, probably because he's so fucking unorthodox about the way he goes about things, but he can't sit at the top of the pile anymore. I think he's going to fall back to that gatekeeper area, which, to be honest, it's not a bad place for him. I think his last chance that he had where he looked like he had a run at the top ended with that last knockout. And, well, Dawkins came in and just finished the job and said, yep, no more runs to the top. You go to the gatekeeper position. To be honest, if he's the gatekeeper sitting number 13, 14, or 15 in the rankings, I wouldn't be mad about that. So that I think that's a good fitting position for him at this moment. However, he's got, 74 professional fights now? Pro MMA about some shit like that. I know it was in the 70s. But anyhow, at least I think it was 70s.
59, 15, and 1. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's in the
He's right there, yeah.
He's right in that 70 mark. That's 70 professional bouts. There's a good time to figure out to let her go. I mean, he's nowhere near the 500 mark. So with that many fucking fights and that many wins, he's obviously done something right. That's why I say maybe it's not quite time to hang it up, but he's got to start thinking that pretty soon here, especially with back-to-back knockout losses. Because diminishing returns. That's how that works. Unfortunately.
Yeah, at 59 and 15, it's basically gatekeeper or nothing at this point. And at that point, even a couple of bad rounds at gatekeeper, and that's all she wrote. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the dad boa constrictor from there. Following that round, though, holy shit. Charles Rosa came out and looked as useless as a sack of doorknobs. Derek Minner just absolutely fucking worked that boy for 15 unanswered fucking minutes. I believe at the end of that fight, the total control time given to Derek Minner was something like 13 minutes and 50 seconds or something like that. Out of the total 15 minutes of the fight, he had full on control for better of 13, I believe.
You know what the best stat was, though? Charles Rosa's control time, 30 seconds. It was fucking ridiculous. When I saw it, I was like, that's the equivalent of a participation trophy of, hey, right, we're going to give you 30 seconds.
That's literally, we give you the first 10 seconds of each round to do something.
And I thought Minor was going to wear himself out, but he just kept going.
He was Energizer Bunny in that shit.
Yeah. Like by the end, you could tell he was exhausted just from, having to hang himself around like a fucking backpack. But like, there was absolutely nothing that could be done for the control game that he was working. Like every time he rolled, like he was in perfect position to counter it. Like, it was absolutely ridiculous. That was a fucking clinic.
And he pulled a couple of interesting moves in the moment that had a bunch of us surprised. He had some very unorthodox transitions that he was using, and they were smooth as a baby's ass, but just couldn't quite completely capitalize on them. But still, he showed some fucking moments in that fight where a couple of us were just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like he was giving his arm or his feet to, like, hey, take my ankle and set it up for submission while I transition over this way to where I can do this, and now I can beat the fuck out of you from this position. Hey, here's my arm. Put me in a Kimura, then I'm just gonna transition to a fucking side mount, and then I'm gonna fuck you up in this angle. Dude, It was amazing.
Yeah, it was very impressive to say the least. I kind of became a fan of Derek Minner. That's for damn sure.
To be honest, after that fight, my immediate thought was what I think would be a really good match would be Minner and Thug Nasty.
That could get real fucking interesting too.
Because
Yeah.
now they've both showed that Charles Rosa is fucking garbage, like we've known, who's getting way too much fucking star power for what he fucking is.
Agreed.
And to be honest, I still think Thug Nasty would beat Minner. However, I think that would be that spot of, hey, who do we really give the star power boost to in the UFC? Because those two boys, they've shown some fucking potential right now. And running over the soup can that is Charles Rosa, who Dana White praises so fucking highly.
I don't get it.
I mean, but you know, this is another one of those cases. This is who we want to be the star, but we're just going to keep forcing the issue. And it's not working because Charles Rosa is fucking garbage. Look, Charles Rosa's got a fucking black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you got a country bumpkin that came in, almost had him in a twister like 3 fucking rounds in a row.
3 times? Yeah.
And then you have Minor who comes in and just fucks his world up for another solid 3 rounds. That jiu-jitsu game that Rosa has is non-existent. He probably is very good at gi jiu-jitsu. No
That was
gi,
my
he's
suspicion.
fucking terrible. And when you bring MMA jiu-jitsu into the picture, that's a whole different fucking ball game. I think it's time that they put him down at the bottom of the pack where he belongs. Use him as a gatekeeper for people that are coming in off of Dana White's Contender Series, because those fuckers are the kind of trash that he should be fighting.
I mean, even then, I don't think that, you know, he would do that well, even being a gatekeeper for the Contender Series boys, because his last 2 fights were extremely mediocre at best.
Send him
I
back.
agree. I kind of have been suspicious, like TJ here, that all the bragging and the fucking emphasis that it is being put on the fact that Charles Rosa is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Doug Nasty learning the fucking twister off of YouTube had him damn near in it 3 fucking times in their fight. And Derek Minner just rolled him around and baited him like a fucking fish, man. The layout arms and the, oh no, my ankles that he was putting out there were just too fucking good to be true. So I think Charles Rosa might have a black belt in gi jiu-jitsu, and it looks like he just doesn't ever practice no gi whatsoever. So
Or
it's
Derek
time to
Minner, or Derek Minner's way better than we thought.
that is also a very good possibility, but I think combined with the fact that Thug Nasty and Minard both ragdolled that motherfucker on the ground thoroughly for an entire fight kind of shows that either Rosa's black belt is fake or it's gi jiu-jitsu and he just doesn't spend any time no gi. But either way, that ain't the world we live in 2021, son. YouTube boys are getting fucking dangerous, so it's time to step up or step the fuck out of the line. Gatekeeper status for Contender Series scrubs, or he ends up in PFL.
I mean,
Either
I
way.
would like to throw something in on that. Even if you are black belt and you all have only trained gi jiu-jitsu, how the fuck do you, for 45 seconds, you have the ankle? How the fuck can you not lock that in? That, for me, that was literally step 1, transitioning to ankle and leg locks. After you learn how to do the rolls on the ground, get the arm, put it through your leg, roll on the shoulder, do that. And then whenever you got that down, then it was ankle and leg locks. You had that ankle for 45 fucking seconds.
He literally laid back and let him get a better grip on it at one point because we were laughing about it.
And what's really funny is I don't think his black belt is that great, because if you go back to, was it 2 or maybe it might be 2 or 3 months ago when we last had Ben Askren's kid on, pursuing an ankle and getting it. What we didn't see is when he wasn't locking it in on his right side, he didn't try to move it over to the other side to try to lock it in from the other side, which blew my fucking mind, because if you can't get it on one side, the next step,
Crack
move
that
it to the other
motherfucker
side.
over.
You know, it just overhyped fucking soup can. Look, this is the way I can put this. This is the great value soup can that somebody mislabeled with Campbell's.
It got put in the wrong section.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible. And you're still getting overcharged for it at the register.
Still scanning is the wrong thing. Oh man. I think the only thing worse than watching Rosa just get fucking ridden like a pack mule for 15 minutes was even having to watch 1 fucking second of that co-main event. I cannot remember the last time I have wanted to wash my eyes out with bleach so fucking strongly. Caitlin Vieira just did not show up Saturday night. I didn't have the highest of high hopes that she was gonna to begin with, but I thought at least she was gonna show up enough to distinguish herself from the level of soup can that Kunitskaya has proven herself to be time and time again. And oh boy, was I wrong on that call as well. Caitlin Vieira showed that not only did she not have it, but she couldn't figure it the fuck out for 15 minutes of Kunitskaya doing God knows what the fuck she actually calls what she was doing in there. But it was not a proper fight by any stretch of the imagination. It really looked like you got 2 people in their first day at the gym and you gave them gloves and headgear and told them, all right, go at it until you hear the bell. It did not look like 2 ladies who both have multiple fights in the top mixed martial arts organization in the fucking world in a co-main event position. It looked like a couple of fucking scrubs off the street, and that's bullshit. Not just for the fans' sake, but for the integrity of the fucking company's sake. If you're trying to be the benchmark and set the fucking standard, and you put that pile of dog shit on fire out as your co-main event, fuck, man, that was garbage. That was just fucking garbage. That was 15 minutes of my life I'll never fucking get back. The good thing about that, if there is a good thing about that flaming roller skate going down a fucking hill, was that the time we lost in that monstrosity of a matchup, we absolutely saved in the main event. Those big boys do not get paid by the hour, and they were not here to waste your motherfucking time. Curtis Blades came out round 1 looking like the absolute fucking stud that we know him to be. The problem is that he came out in round 2 wanting to get a little crazy, try a couple things that he hadn't tested out yet. Derek Lewis isn't really the guy to test shit out on. He did, to his credit, exactly what everyone in the fucking world knew at some point in that fight he was going to do. And he went to shoot in. And the problem was he did not set that takedown attempt up with a goddamn thing. And Derek Lewis saw that shit coming a mile away. And when Derek Lewis can read you like a children's book, you're going to have a bad night. And poor Curtis Blades telegraphed that shit from the 1800s. And Derek Lewis went, deet, 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 gotcha, bitch. Bing, and fucking uppercutted him into this Wednesday Curtis just got back to normal yesterday. Credit where credit is due. The Black Beast, we said it a million fucking times, carries dangerous power throughout the whole goddamn fight. You can never take your eye off the prize when you're fighting Derek Lewis because of this exact fucking reason. When you give him an opening to power bomb the fuck out of you, that's exactly what he's going to do. And poor Curtis Blades walked right the fuck into a body stiffening uppercut, and Herb Dean's slow jumping ass cost him 2 extra shots in the meanwhile. But man, Derek Lewis is really making the heavyweight picture very difficult to figure out for Mick and Sean. Dana is kind of just a mouthpiece at this point, but Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby are going to have a real hard time trying to figure out what the fuck they are going to do with the heavyweight picture with Curtis Blades and Derek Lewis now.
He fucked that picture all sorts of up. And I can't even say that he fucked it up so much as he pulled the Bob Ross, and there was a happy little accident in there.
Yeah, he put himself a tree where there wasn't one before.
Yeah, and he made it a masterpiece. Look, Curtis Blades was running that fight from the start all the way up until that fucking terrible looking shot. And I say terrible because that was reminiscent of a Ben Askren shot. You knew that motherfucker was coming. He didn't set it up. He could have set it up. I mean, look at the leg kicks he was throwing in the first round. He had more speed than Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is not a speed fighter for the heavyweights. He is a I'm gonna fucking take your soul fighter. As in, one shot is all I need to take your soul. Ask everyone he's knocked out in the last fucking 4 or 5 fights now. Because now he's got Curtis Blades on his resume. Alexei Oleinik, fucking who do you fucking knock? Alex fucking what's his fucking name? God damn it. Well, there's a bunch of them. Anyhow, he's on a tear with fucking literally murdering people no matter how bad he's getting beat. And
Alexander Volkov.
There you go. Bad tattoo and all. But yeah.
Knocked the stingray off him.
He's literally whatever the UFC had planned for Curtis Blades, because I'm sure they had something planned. He's fucking that shit up. Like to be honest, after that knockout of him, I think we're still going to see John Jones get the winner of that because they've said it's going to happen for winner of the title fight. Whatever. That is what it is. I think right now, Derek Lewis put himself in a spot to be whoever beats John Jones's ass at the top there. So, to be honest, I can definitely see that after putting him so far out that he look, I saw Curtis Blades' soul leave his fucking body during that. He went and joined Ben Askren and a bunch of Frankie Edgar and a whole bunch of other motherfuckers in that little cloud of souls. If you haven't been watching those videos, go find it. You'll know what I'm talking about. But I saw it happen during the moment. I didn't need a video to show me. That dude, he changes the landscape of the heavyweight division. And I don't think he's just adding trees in there. He's throwing fucking mountains in. So, but to be honest, I'm not mad at it at all. Because we all said it last week. We said chances are Curtis Blades runs this fight. Wins it. Domination. He was dominating. However, there was the caveat in all of our statements. He carries power till the end. He can knock him out. I'm not going to lie. I was rooting for Derek Lewis just because I was hoping he was going to say something really fucking off the wall. Because, you know, that's what we expect out of him after a fight. But I still saw Curtis Blades winning that fight. But that did not happen. And to be honest, I don't know what they do with Curtis Blades. I have a feeling I know what they're going to do with Derek Lewis, but I have no earthly idea what they're going to do with Curtis Blades after that, which is a little disheartening because, to be honest, he was on an absolute tear. And to be honest, I thought he was next in line for a fucking title fight after this. But that definitely went out the window there. But that was a beautifully timed uppercut, and he even said it in his post fight. He's like, we knew he was going to shoot. It was just a matter of when, and that's when we were gunning for. He bided his time, found it, and boy, did he fucking connect. And with that connection came the chance to go drive his Lamborghini this week.
Very true. Very true. So they did that fucking weird thing again. I don't know why Dana likes doing this, but they didn't have a fight of the night. They did the 4 performance bonus thing again, which on one hand, I understand they're still giving out 200 grand in bonuses. On the other hand, there's something to be said about fight of the night, 2 performance of the nights being the standard, because if you're not going to do a fight of the night and 2 performances of the night every night, then you're throwing the numbers off. You're skewing the numbers. And that makes the bonuses that the guys have, where people like Cowboy Cerrone, who are leading in most post-fight bonuses and most fights, that changes that whole skew, because now the numbers of bonuses themselves aren't being given out the same. Not to mention, why wouldn't you want a fight of the night? There's always at least one match on every card that stands out above and beyond every other fight on that card. That's literally why the fucking bonus was created. But here we are back in 4 performance land. To the surprise of no one, Derek Lewis's perfectly timed fucking uppercut got him a performance bonus. Chris Dacus just laying out the fucking dad body constrictor got him the fucking bonus. Tom Aspinall choking the fuck out of the pit bull got him the bonus. And Faraz Zahabi's little brother, Ayman Zahabi, putting in work for the family name, getting that fucking round 1 KO on the prelims, got himself a $50,000 bonus to boot.
Fucking polar bear got robbed. Fucking highway robbery there.
Got one-upped by the other Zahabi brother. Lost that 50K. It's a rough game they play. It's a rough game indeed. So from that card, we're not going to go through the full list, but there's a couple of, we'll call them questionable medical suspensions that were given out. Curtis Blades, after getting his soul ripped out of his body, is suspended until April 22nd. Caitlin Vieira, who spent 15 minutes getting her fucking ass worked in a circle, and at the very end of the fight, her forehead split clean the fuck open, only out till April 7th. Derek Minner got 2 weeks. No contact till this week. The most normal suspension we've seen in a long fucking time. Rosa is out until August 20th. Dacus is out until August 20th. Apparently he broke his hand. But he can be cleared by a doctor. Most of the injury, the actual injury related suspensions can be lifted by a doctor ahead of time, but worst case scenario, there they are. Olynyk got his fucking soul taken out of his body. Suspended till April 7th. Arlovski, who almost faked the choke to a degree, suspended till August 20th. Nate Landwehr's out till August 20th or cleared by a doctor. TKO, kind of standard. The real interesting one here for me, Jamal Emmers ended up on the medical suspension list without fighting. They put him on medical suspension because he made it to the weigh-ins, made it to the back setting, and then was about to make the walk when the doctor stopped him because he was having spasms trying to fucking walk. Apparently, this is the same thing that happened to Trevin Giles initially. We just didn't have as accurate medical suspension reporting when that happened, and he on his way out. But yeah, Jamal Emmers never actually fought, still suspended until August 20th. That one I agree with. If you are in such bad shape, the UFC doctors have to literally stop you from walking to the octagon. Something's going on. Get your shit right.
I don't agree with that one at all, because I have a feeling that had to do with weight cut. Because look, a lot of times when that shit like that happens, it's usually due to dehydration.
Right.
You see a lot of muscle spasms, things like that, because there's not enough water to be able to. Well, I'm not going to get into the fucking A&P of it, but a lot of times it's dehydration related, because things aren't allowed to cross cell membranes and things like they're supposed to be able to release tension in the muscles when you're dehydrated. So, to be honest, I don't think it should have been that long. I say give him until fucking April. I mean, he can always get cleared by a doctor, because I'm sure that was in there with August 20th or cleared by a doctor, which means he'll probably be at fucking practice this week.
Right. Yeah. Some fucking doctor would be like, oh, no, you're good. We'll just hydrate you. Now that you're not in the fight, you can take an IV. We'll rehydrate you. Make sure you get extra saline and put a half a bag in extra on top. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like
if that's the situation, and it was from dehydration, I should say.
Yeah, like 6 months, that's a bit excessive. 2, 3, 3's pushing it, but I can understand that because he could have some type of nervous system issue going on that could lead to some lasting nerve damage. I can understand 2, 3 months pushing it. I can understand that, but when you're pushing them off 6 months or cleared by a doctor, that's a tad bit excessive.
The other thing that I thought about was, especially actually, if it was weight cut related, absolutely make that a 6-month suspension. Get your fucking weight cutting right.
Yeah.
Because if your weight cut is so fucked up that you're that fucked up 24 hours after weigh-in, when you can literally have been drinking fluids for a full 24 hours and you're still that dehydrated, your weight cut's fucked, son. And if that's the case, no, keep that 6 months. You earned that, motherfucker. Sit your ass down, figure out your fucking regimen, get a proper nutritionist, or hang out at the fucking Performance Institute for a week or two. Get your shit figured the fuck out and fix it, and hope they give you another chance.
Yeah.
But we've seen stranger things. I think I think that if he's got his shit together and it was weight cutting, he'll get a doctor to clear him. If it was a legitimate injury, he's going to be on the sideline for a minute, and we're going to find out next week or so what exactly it was that led to his back actually fucking him out of going into the ring. But we do have a couple of very interesting little tidbits of news and fight announcements here to go over since we talked to you fine folks last week. I want to run down a couple of these because we don't have a ton to talk about for this card, but there were actually, ironically, in my opinion, better fights announced than we're actually going to be breaking down here in a minute. So I do want to go over a couple of these for you here. The first one we found out the other day, Randy Costa is out. He has apparently hurt himself. So Mario Batista is going to step in on short notice and be a badass next weekend and take on Trevin Jones for UFC 259. So literally, what is it, a week and 2 days notice? Batista stepping in. Fucking A. That's what we like to see. Don't fuck it up now, because you're going to have extra eyes on you for doing that. But if you do it right, this is how you turn out to be a fucking hero. You step in on short notice, and you take the fight, and you look like a badass. Don't fuck it up. we did get another announcement for the card that will be on my birthday on March 20th. Gregor Gillespie will be stepping in against Brad Quake Rydell, and I think that is going to be a pretty goddamn good fight. Quake is a bad motherfucker. Gillespie is no fucking slouch, but he really needs a big win. I think a win over Riddell would absolutely be what he needs, but Quake is a bad motherfucker, and he's got a lot of tricks in his fucking tool bag with them city kickboxing boys lighting the fire underneath his ass. So it'd be interesting to see how that one shakes loose. One of the bigger ones that we got this week, May 8th's card will now host Holly Holm versus Juliana Pena. Winner will most likely get the next title shot. We did get an interesting late addition to this weekend's card. Just happened 2 days ago. We'll talk about it a little more in a little bit, but only just a little bit more. But Angela Hill agreed to step in on short notice to face Ashley Yoder for the rematch for this weekend. Both of them ended up taking that on short notice, but we'll see how that actually works out, because that's another one of those rematches that no one was really screaming for, but Angela Hill won't stop screaming that she wants a goddamn fight, even though she's on a 3-fight losing skid right now. So I guess there's that. A for effort for Angela Overkill Hill for being active as fuck. But how much does it really matter if you're active as fuck if you're literally losing 2 out of every 3 fights? Being the I'll always take a short notice fighter doesn't carry the same effect if you lose all the short notice fights you take, or you decision them and it's not impressive to begin with. So we'll see how that one shakes out. We did get an interesting one for the May 15th card added, though. Alex Perez stepping up to take on Matt Schnell, who we just saw go through a fucking absolute war not that long ago. That has got some interesting potential because I believe they are both top 10. I believe Perez is still top 10. But Schnell's climbing, man. He's trying to make his way up the goddamn rankings. Perez would definitely put a good fucking leaping point into the upper echelon if he's not considered there yet, I think. March 13th. Unfortunately, I say with air quotes, Ryan Hall has injured himself somehow and will not be able to make his 7th fucking fight in a row. But luckily for us, Gavin Tucker is a bad motherfucker and is willing to step up on short notice to take the fight against Dan Ige to keep a badass fight on that card. Realistically, I think Gavin Tucker versus Dan Ige is going to be a much better fight than Ryan Hall versus Ige would have been anyways. We'll find out in 2 weeks, but I think we actually ended up with the better end of it in this deal here. Due to weird fucking scheduling and weird matchmaking, May 22nd, we will see Felicia Spencer get back in the octagon, coming off of her very rough title loss to welcome a fucking soup can from the Contender Series, because matchmaking in the UFC doesn't make fucking sense. Why go 5 rounds with a fucking champion in your first title fight if it's only going to mean you're fucking welcoming Contender Series soup cans in the next round out? But, you do you, Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby. I'm sure Felicia's real fucking happy with that fight. Anyways, we did also find out this week, aside from Holly getting the match with Juliana Pena, she is also going to be working part of the desk for an all-women's boxing event hosted, or main evented, I should say, by Clarissa Shields, who has recently made a notoriety, I guess would be a good word for it, for saying that she wants to come in and fight Amanda Nunes, that she's done with boxing, she's transitioning to MMA, that she's coming for Amanda Nunes, and then she signed with the PFL in a non-seasonal multiple fight competition contract and is now in a boxing fight again. But, you know, do you make that money, boo? You know, still got to stay relevant. The shit talking doesn't work and you're not actually in MMA, I guess. But, you know, whatever. But like I kind of mentioned earlier, some of these fights we got announcements for here are bigger than the fights that we're about to break down on this weekend's card, and that's still exciting because we've got awesomeness in the future to look forward to. One of those will be at UFC 261, taking place April 24th. We got the name of the newest cannon fodder. They are really going to let Jessica Andrade go in there and fight against Valentina Shevchenko for the fucking belt. I don't understand how or why they really feel that she deserves this opportunity, but I am almost gleefully laughing that they're really going to let it happen. They saw what Rose did to Andrade before the slam and then in the rematch, and they still think that Shevchenko stands less of a chance of winning than that. Okay. Well, at least we know what the main event for 261 is going to be. We did get interesting news for 260, which is March 27th. The fight that we were supposed to see last weekend, and because a cornerman got himself Backstreet Boys tickets, we did not last minute. We are going to get to see again in 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks now, for UFC 260. Jillian Robertson versus Miranda Maverick has been moved. The cornerman that got himself that ticket is now being treated and kept the fuck away from everyone else. So, knock on wood, we'll actually get to see that fight this time around, because I do think that's going to be pretty goddamn entertaining. Anytime a fucking protege of Dean Thomas gets in the octagon, I try to pay attention, especially one like Robertson, who's got the greatest fucking work ethic on the ladies' side of the house, save for maybe a Shevchenko sister, in my opinion. I think that fight's going to be fucking awesome, and I'm glad that they decided that they were going to remake it and not just scrap the whole goddamn thing. Interesting, maybe not as interesting, but definitely still interesting fight coming up on the May 8th card for the UFC. We will be getting the return of the crochet boss himself, Maurice Green, stepping in to take on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Basically a shitter get off the pot for the big boys match, but those are two of the biggest big boys in the goddamn heavyweight, so there's bound to be at least a little bit of interesting fireworks sparking out from that fucking matchup. And then we got another one of those fucking super exciting news, more so than the fights we're going to break down in a minute, announcement. The UFC 263 card has given us our headliner for June 12th. We will be getting the run back that everyone in the goddamn world has been waiting to hear announced. We got it confirmed. They're running it back. Figgy versus Moreno 2. We get it in June, and god damn it, it's gonna be fucking great. I'm telling you, I'm so fucking happy that we got that this summer, like they basically said they were hoping for. We got it. That's gonna be fucking spectacular. The first one was fucking awesome. The second one promises to be just as fucking good, and that division is getting interesting again. God damn it.
Thank you, Figgy.
No shit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out with Figgy hopefully not being sick the night before.
Yeah, not being in the fucking hospital the night before the goddamn title fight.
Yeah, so we'll see.
But a couple more here I do want to go over real quick. The first one we found out for this weekend's upcoming card, just this afternoon, Alonzo Menefield got himself a ticket just last night to the reunion, and the fight against William Knight for this Saturday is officially off the card. That's the third one we have lost in the last 24 hours. They are going to rebook it. They are aiming to rebook it at 260 at the end of the month, if everyone is healthy. We got an interesting pair of signage announcements. I guess one's a re-sign, kind of. The first one kind of slid under the radar. I actually had to look a little bit for this one, but I was very happy when I found it. The PFL has announced their official completed roster for the 2021 season. And the final name that they added to complete that roster was none other than Gleason Tebow himself. He will be competing in the 2021 season of PFL's Regimented Fight Season Series, I guess is what they call it. Very interesting to see what Gleason's got lined up. Honestly, PFL does not have that deep of a fucking division over there. Gleason stands a real good chance of going over there and making a lot of fucking problems for some of those boys and maybe getting himself $1 million at the end of the goddamn year. I'm going to be real interested to see how that one plays out. But the other sign/resign announcement that we got just this afternoon, as a matter of fact, was a little more surprising to me than Tebow. I'm not generally surprised that Gleason Tebow got signed by somebody else when the UFC let him go. That motherfucker's a badass. He's far from Arlovski status. He can still very much put on some very good fights before he needs to stop fighting. But last year we got a very public and very vocal cry out from a couple of fighters basically demanding their release from the UFC because they just weren't being treated good enough and they were ready to test the free market, and pretty much all of them have ended up shutting the fuck up and signing back with the UFC again. And we got the latest announcement to confirm that. After quite literally crying in a video pleading with the UFC to release him from his contract so that he could go test free agency, we got news yesterday that Edson Barbosa has officially re-signed a multi-fight deal with the UFC. He quite literally cried in a fucking video last year asking Dana and Sean Shelby to let him go, to release him from his contract, and then said he is excited to announce today that he has signed a multi-fight deal with the UFC to stay in-house.
I have a strange feeling that this worked out in his favor for this reason. You asked out, tested around, and knew you were still going to get a better deal from the UFC, and they weren't willing to restructure initially. Now they're willing to restructure because they want you back. I have this sneaking suspicion that that's going to pay the fucking bills right there. And in a big way, to be quite honest.
So I initially had a similar thought, but then I realized that it's still Dana that we're talking about here. So I think what they're actually going to do is now they're going to throw him to the biggest fucking shark they can get to sign the contract, hoping that he gets his ass whipped so that they can bench him until they find themselves some new soup cans that they need to try and make a name off of. Because Dana made a very publicly known last year when Edson made his crying video that he didn't give a shit what Edson wanted. He was the one that made the decisions in the UFC.
But
Now
this
he turns
also
around and he
shows
gives
that
him a multi-fight deal.
this also shows something else, though, too. This also shows that he doesn't make the decisions, because if they let him out of the contract, he don't make fucking dick. He makes questions about who gets to fight, who possibly, because he can get into Shelby's ear. But as far as contracts go, Dana doesn't have that fucking power. That's written by their legal team.
Interesting. Could be interesting to see how it plays out. I kind of got a feeling that Dana's kind of try and find himself a steamroller to try and plow Barbosa for getting one over on him like this now. We'll see how it shakes loose, though. But that will bring us into the meat and potatoes portion of the show here, as it were. The namesake, the reason for the season, the marquee of the evening. The last one before UFC pay-per-view. Not that the first one after a pay-per-view is ever particularly glorious, but who's making these fucking cards? At this point, it's almost like they're not even trying anymore. And we said it last week, and I'm saying it again this week. Who's putting these fucking cards together? I understand that in today's market, where Dana is literally hell-bent on having an event every goddamn weekend, that there's a lot of fights that are going to get made that nobody's asking for. There's a lot of guys that normally wouldn't get any shine that are going to be on television. They're going to be on the prelims, or God forbid, they're going to somehow fucking talk their way into a main card spot. But this card just sucks. Honestly, it almost completely from top to bottom has been made and remade and remade and remade again. This card was originally scheduled to be Dominic Reyes versus Yuri Prochaska as the main event. That one fell out. And then the co-main originally got bumped in, and we ended up with Cyril versus Rozenstruik, who weren't even originally scheduled to fight, and then ended up getting their fight that they did agree to bumped up to take the place of this main event. And then the premier prelim fight got bumped. And then yesterday we had the William Knight fight got bumped because fucking Menafield. And it's just like, there's going to come a point here where these shitty cards are going to stop getting people's interest because they're just not trying anymore. They're literally stacking the pay-per-view cards every month with all of the best fights for the entire month, and then just shitting on the other 3 to 4 cards they're putting in between those pay-per-view cards. And we're going to get to a point here where people are going to stop watching fight nights. The whole point of having multiple events is to draw a bigger crowd, to put on more things for your crowd to want to see. And when you're giving them subpar fights week after week after week, and then once a month you give them a couple good fights, but you make them pay out the ass for it every month, people are going to start losing interest. This is that card, literally. We've got pay-per-view coming up next weekend, but this weekend is a fucking snooze fest. The prelims are just all filler, no thriller. The one remote beacon of anything interesting on the prelims is to see how Cowboy Oliveira comes in against this full-on fucking soup can that he was going to take on. Even that, meh. And then the quote-unquote premier prelim fight. Alexander Hernandez versus Tiago Moises. This match I don't hate. But when this is the biggest of a half dozen fights, you're really starting to scrape low on the barrel here. So I like Tiago Moises. I think he's got a real good chance to make something of himself in the UFC if he can keep his shit together. He's been a little inconsistent, to say the least. Lucky for him, he's standing across the octagon from one of the UFC's most infamous fucking soup cans. This kid is in everyone's fucking highlight reel for good goddamn reason. Cowboy Cerrone walked him through the Matrix and slapped the shit out of him the whole fucking way. And basically everyone since then has been able to repeat that feat. So unless he really, really just gives it away, I anticipate Tiago Moises rounding us out the prelims and into the main card the same way everyone else has, by slapping the dog shit out of Alexander Hernandez fairly easily.
Fuck yeah. That dude let Drew Dober knock his ass out.
Knock clean the fuck out.
Yeah. And it was a nasty knockout at that. Man, yeah. Alexander, not the great. He did look at like he could be that person at one point, but then we found out that was all a facade. Shitbag. Tiago Moises, this is your time to use what Dana White thinks is a great fighter as a stepping stone on your way up. So enjoy your time in the highlight in that premier prelims position.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, I think Tiago out-grapples him and puts him on the ground and works him like a government mule. Thank you, Jim Ross. I really don't see the fight going any other way. So.
I zoned out staring at my phone for about the last 5 minutes. I'm trying to. I'm trying to.
That Shauna Dobson fight.
No, I'm trying to. I'm trying to look something up, and I can't fucking find it. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I just saw it yesterday. It was something that I wanted to bring up at like the end of this, but I can't fucking find the article anywhere on fucking ESPN or anything. I was trying to fucking find a goddamn article. What are we talking about?
Alexander
I think that's
Hernandez
the perfect answer to this fight.
and Tiago Moises. And that is a great embodiment.
Oh God.
Yeah. That's the proper response.
Yeah. I mean they're both kind of shit. But I don't know. I like Moises more. Hernandez is kind of, you know, as Myra would say, slightly cannon fodder. And I think he's getting too much fucking hype for what he's done in the UFC. Moises is pretty good on the ground, and I wouldn't be mad seeing Moises absolutely fucking minor him. I wouldn't mind seeing Moises minor the fuck out of him.
I can agree with that. I think that would be entertaining as shit. We've seen him get head kicked into oblivion. Let's see him get minnered.
Yeah.
I'm all right with that. So the good news with that shit stack being out of the goddamn way is that brings us into the main card, where at least the selection of what is a little better than we had in the prelims. Now, we're going to come back to this, but there's a little bit of a weird situation here that's going on with the first two fights, at least according to the UFC's website. I don't know if this is actually how it's going to be once we get to Saturday night and they actually start getting the fights off, but we'll see. The first one, though, they will be, according to the website, at least for now, opening the card with is going to be Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres versus Kevin Kroom. This has potential to go one of two ways, in my opinion. Either Kevin Kroom comes in and looks like an absolute fucking stud because he's got every fucking chance to do it. Or Bruce Leroy shows up instead of Alex Caceres. Because we saw Alex Caceres show up for a couple of fights and he got his ass whipped. And then the last time we saw that young man step into the octagon, Bruce Leroy was back. And he reminded everybody that he's still a very capable motherfucker. but only when Bruce Leroy shows up. Because whenever Alex Caceres comes to a fight, it seems like he's got Arlovski syndrome. He just doesn't want to be there. He doesn't care. There's no fucking pep in his step. There's no excitement. There's no emotion. He's just kind of dialing it in, or phoning it in rather, and it usually ends up in him getting fucked up. But when Bruce Leroy shows up, shit gets real interesting. So I will say, if we see Caceres come out to the octagon, I think Kevin Kroom takes it. But I think if Bruce Leroy shows up, we get a repeat of the last time when he was out there.
I'd like to point this out. Alex Caceres has won 3 of his last 4. 4 of his last 5. 3 in a row. He has won 3 in a row. And he's looked fucking great doing it. Like, he's refound what he loved about MMA. I think he gets another submission, quite frankly, on Kroom. I think he puts him down in the second. He might even put him down in the first with the way he's been going. Like, that boy is not playing around anymore. And he deserves a step up in competition after his last performance. But I think he makes relatively short work of Kroom, and I think he gets his step up in competition. I think Dana's gonna have to give him somebody at this point, because he's been looking really, really good for like the last 2 years, quite frankly.
Yeah, and if he handles Kroom, yeah, I agree. There's no option. You got to give him somebody.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked good for the last 2 years, but he's looked great over the last year. Like, he moved to a new camp, he got focused. I think he's starting his role. I think he's gonna make some noise.
I'm in agreement with Fresh on this. After seeing his last 3 fights, even last 4 of his 4 wins out of the last 5. Those are pretty good fucking numbers for him, considering the steep decline that we had seen in him. He's obviously pulled himself out of that fucking funk that he was in, and we're starting to see that Bruce Leroy of old, where, hey, this is exciting to me. Let's get in here and do work. He's had a couple of finishes. He's had a couple of decisions, which is good for somebody who's trying to get their wheels back under him. I don't want to say anything bad about Kevin Kroom, but we haven't seen much of him. Literally 30-some seconds in the first round, he gets a submission. To be honest, I think this is a slap in the face to Alex Caceres that he has to fight him. I don't think Kroom is worth Alex Caceres' time. However, maybe they're just checking to make sure Alex Caceres is still there before they throw him into a top 15 opponent, or between 10 and 15. Because to be honest, I think right now at featherweight, I think he deserves that shot after the good little run we've seen him on. But I mean, Kroom is going to be another stepping stone for him to get back in where he once was. And to be honest, I think he's well on his way. I've never been a huge Bruce Leroy fan, but from what I've seen, he's definitely, you can see the energy in him is a lot better than what it was on that decline. I think that change in camps there has made a huge difference and impact on the way that he's moving forward. So, not to mention, he's getting a little bit older. What is he, 32 now versus when he came in, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that? It's been a while since he's been in the UFC, and he was just on a steady decline. Now that uptick, I think from just a speed bump that they shouldn't have put in the fucking parking lot. But, got to pay the bills, so may as well take the fight.
Yeah, for Alex Caceres, I think Kroom is going to be nothing more than a stepping stone with, as both of you have said, that change in energy over the last 2 years. and him steadily putting in work, getting those submissions, getting the stoppages, getting a couple decision victories over somewhat notable fighters. Like his decision went over old baby Askren. That was a good fucking fight. They went the distance on it. That was a good fucking fight. That was a good W for him. I think this weekend Kroom will be nothing more than a stepping stone. I also just want Kroom to get fucked up because his goddamn UFC pitcher, he looks like a fucking idiot. What the fuck is that? He's got a dumbass smirk, and I just want to get fucked up for that.
That's the George Bush smirk. If you look really closely at that on the UFC website, that is the George Bush smirk. That's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
It's a weird picture to have as your avatar, but hey, man.
Yeah,
whatever.
man.
I guess when you only have one win in 30 seconds inside the UFC octagon, your only reaction can be, it'll definitely be different seeing where Caceres is at with this one, especially considering how little time Kroom has had in the octagon so far. I think this is going to be another one of those cases where Kroom's getting a little more than he should after a 30-second one. However, who knows? Maybe he is that good, and that's why he got it done in 30 seconds previously. But I doubt it. In the featherweight division, it's a way too deep of a division to fucking be able to verify that without putting something behind it.
We thought the same thing about Philip Hawes, though. Just saying, there's room to be surprised. I think a surprise may be coming. Bruce Leroy don't show up. Kroom, I think
that's
he's
the
gonna
thing, though.
have
Bruce Leroy has been nobody's bitch lately. So
this is absolutely true. That's what I said. It really depends on who shows up. But that being said, if after that fight you need yourself a new wobble pop or some fresh popcorn, this is the point where you can go ahead and get yourself up and take a stretch, get blood circulating again, do a couple quick calisthenics if you need to, because this is the point, for whatever fucking reason, they have decided that they are going to put the Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoder rematch. Honestly, I don't give a single shit who wins this fight. I don't see there being a potential for excitement. The reason I am talking about this fight at all is because what I want everyone listening to this to do is pull up the UFC website and look at this fight card, because these fights, the Caceres fight and this Hill fight, are directly next to each other. What I want you to do is ask yourself, have you ever seen Angela Hill and Alex Caceres in the same room at the same time? Moving on. The next fight is one you can at least get a little bit excited about. This poor goddamn fight has been bounced around, I think, 6 times now. I think this might actually have been moved more than Khabib Tony. But barring anything happening between now and Saturday, we're finally going to hopefully fucking get to see it so that we can move on from this matchup. Pedro Munoz versus Jimmy Rivera. Honestly, Rivera has just been the UFC's kicking can in the bantamweight division for a hot fucking minute now. Almost everyone in the top 10 has got him in their highlight reel at some point in the last few years. And it seems like for whatever reason, this is Pedro's time that he gets to put him in there. Honestly, I feel like this is kind of a disrespect of a match, considering that We saw Pedro put Cody No Chin into the folded lawn chair position, and that alone, I feel, warrants him getting a better fight than Jimmy fucking Rivera. But sometime you got to get the soup can of match, even if it's just to get his ass whipped. And I kind of feel like that's what this is. They're throwing Pedro a gimme. This should, on paper, be a fight for him to easily finish before we get to a third round. But because that's what logic dictates, I'm expecting a decision fight. I still think Pedro's going to take it because Jimmy just hasn't had what it takes in a hot fucking minute now. But because on paper and logically, it looks like Pedro should just fucking end this quick, I think we're going to end up seeing the judges get involved in this, unfortunately. But I still think Pedro's going to do enough to take it home.
It's, to be honest, I'm still wondering why this fight wasn't made myself. However, you know, when it gets bounced around this many times, it eventually has to come to fruition at some point. Unlike the Khabib Ferguson fight, which they pretty much gave up on. But, you know, God forbid you give people what they want. You give them some shit we really didn't want. But here we are. Jimmy Rivera, to be honest, I don't understand why they're allowing him to punch above his weight class right now. But I think I'm on board with you. I think Pedro Munoz gets this done. To be honest, I think he puts him away, though. I think he folds him.
I kind of feel like that, but the last couple weeks when I go with what I think I feel should happen, yeah, I'm fucking wrong. I was way fucking wrong last weekend, so...
See, what I what I fully expect to happen is probably will happen at some point in the late first, early second. Is Jimmy trying to get a little bit past, just trying to punch up past himself and getting countered, getting scared like everybody does when they find Pedro. All of a sudden they find themselves in that fucking guillotine. So I expect that scenario to play out. Late first, early second, somewhere in there, because Pedro's got some nasty counters. So it should be a fun fight. I think this one theoretically could go to decision. Lord knows Jimmy pushes forward enough to really have some fun exchanges with Pedro. So we'll see where this one takes us. Finally fucking happening, hopefully. Fingers crossed, nothing goes crazy. Nobody trips on the way to the fucking scale or anything this weekend.
Right, no shit.
But yeah, it should be fun. I think this is Pedro's fight to lose, quite frankly. So hopefully it's a good showcase for the man.
The only downfall that I can even think of for fucking Munoz, the only downfall is he is an absolutely spectacular counter striker. He eats the fuck out of shots that he doesn't need to, though, to get those absolutely magnificently timed counters. He eats the fuck out of shots. Other than that, he is leaps and bounds ahead of where Rivera is. Striking, ground game, takedown defense, every other aspect, he is leaps and bounds ahead of where Rivera is. Like I said, the only way I could see Munoz getting into some sort of trouble is him trying to get just beautiful highlight reel knockouts on counters. That's the only way I could see him getting in some form of trouble. But you also have to have Rivera to actually be able to hit hard enough to do that, and I don't see that happening. I'd say early first round, there's a stoppage because of the power that Munoz holds. late in the first.
Interesting. Jimmy is definitely the type of dude, like TJ said, he will fucking walk right out at him. If he's dumb enough to leave his fucking chin hanging out in the air, we've seen time and time again, Pedro will show you exactly how far away from it needs to be to put you to sleep. He'll measure you with his arm. We've seen it done time and time again. He's real fucking good at it. I do agree, though. He does have a tendency to eat a lot more fucking shots than he needs to land that one. And the fucking Garbrandt highlight that they're showing on the UFC's Instagram page is a perfect example of that. The last 20 seconds of that fight, he ate almost every single shot he did in the attempt to land the counter that he did, with the exception of the one that put Cody out when he actually ducked far enough under as his shot landed that Cody went over his head instead of right into his goddamn jaw. But the good thing is that shows you that Pedro can take a fucking shot if he has to. And I don't think Jimmy has anywhere near the fucking punching power that Cody had, least of all when Cody was in desperation mode and you could see him literally Popeye style winding up to throw everything into it and Pedro just taking it and throwing back. I don't think Jimmy has a prayer of ever hitting that fucking hard, and we know Pedro can take that. So I agree. I think this is pretty much a Munoz fight to lose. That being said, that'll bring us to our people's co-main event, as it were, the third slot out. A pair of interesting ladies at this point, rounding out the tail end of this card here. Montana De La Rosa versus Myra Buena Silva. We have seen Montana De La Rosa have a couple of bumps in the road, but we have absolutely seen her grow as well. She was definitely an unpolished gem, rough-cornered piece of coal when she first came in, and she took a couple of lumps for it. But to her credit, and unlike her fucking husband, we have actually seen her work on the things that have given her problems in her game, i.e. the stand-up. She is one half of what was originally slated to be the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu husband and wife in the UFC to potentially win on the same card, but hubby can't duck a fucking punch and has no interest in working on his stand-up game, so that went out the goddamn window. A couple fights later, we saw that Montana also still has some issues with stand-up, not to the same degree of her husband, but it's definitely a weak point in her game as well. You can tell that they definitely focus more on the jiu-jitsu and the ground side of their game. But unlike Mark, Montana actually got in the gym and got to working on that and has legitimately improved her striking since then. The issue is that Myra Buena Silva across from her kind of made the opposite journey. She came in as a decent striker, and is now starting to learn the grappling aspect of the MMA game. And that makes, in my opinion, a very interesting puzzle to see come together here, because Myra is not afraid to stand in the fucking pocket and throw fucking leather. She can eat a shot pretty fucking well, and she will take one to give one, much like a more talented female Jimmy Rivera. The problem is, I don't know that Montana has the stand-up game to be able to get her to the ground, to be able to initiate where her strong suit lies. I'm hoping, if Montana has been continuing to improve during lockdown time, because we haven't seen a lot of fighters lately, despite them having a lot more free time, they don't necessarily have the same access to training regimens that they normally would have. So hopefully, during this downtime, Montana has been using it to keep working and keep improving like she was prior to all of the craziness that the world has become. If that's the case, I think this is Montana's fight to lose with her face, quite literally. If she hasn't been working during this downtime, I think this is Montana's fight to lose with her face, quite literally. If Montana's been active, I think she's got it. I think she just has to have stayed sharp during this time down. But if she has taken the Mark De La Rosa approach to training, I think Myra Silva is going to have herself a very happy night. I hope I'm wrong, but I think Myra has the power to give Montana problems if she hasn't been working. I hope she has. We'll find out.
I think the equal can be said, or I think it can be said the same way. I mean, Silva, we haven't seen her in for fucking ever. Like, when's the last time she actually had a fight?
I don't know.
2019 at some point.
I think she had
But
one.
I mean, both of these ladies could have been working in the shadows, and who knows? Silva, I think, is a better striker, and I think that's to her advantage, at least on the feet. I think she can throw Montana off. I think this is Silva's fight to lose on the ground, because she threw a couple of pretty impressive submissions the last couple of wins that she had. Got her hands on a couple of people that she probably submitted a couple of people outside of her class, quite frankly. So yeah, I mean, I think this is actually Myra's fight to lose. I think all around, I think she has a better game. I think Montana De La Rosa, I mean, she could have been working on her striking, but I don't know how much interest that actually holds for her. So I'm hoping that this is a little bit more exciting fight than I think it will probably wind up being. I think one of the two ladies, whoever is stronger, is going to push the other one into the cage. And then we'll see stomps and slaps and all that good stuff, and then eventually maybe a submission. I hope I'm really wrong about that. I think I'll take Silva Rosa just to kind of play the heel on this one. I think she's definitely had a longer time period off. So she's had more time to work on her game, and I think she's better rounded to start with. So
I'm going to say it out loud here because nobody else is obviously thinking this. This is the one fight I could give two flying fucks about. I don't care about Montana De La Rosa at this point. She has not shown me anything more polished. She got whipped in her last fight. Buena, so you're not very bueno either. To be honest, this fight should have been on the fucking early prelims. And there's not even an early prelims on this card, if that tells you how I feel about it. This is a waste of my fucking time to talk about this. I'm done.
So the way I look at it is both of them have pretty decent ground game. So it's going to end up being a stand-up match. Because that's how it fucking works like 9 times out of 10 nowadays. If you have two boxers, it's going to be a ground game match. If it's a ground game, you're going to be fucking standing on your feet, because I doubt either one is going to be able to very easily get a takedown, because both are very good ground game submission artists. And if it's a stand-up match, Silva's going to take it, because she actually shows more promise with her hands. That's where I end up on it. Silva would end up taking it. I don't see a stoppage in any way, shape, or form. It's going to end up being a decision victory. The only good thing to say is De La Rosa, she is at least trying to make progress. I can absolutely give respect to that, because she's actively trying to get better on her feet, because this isn't the old school days, early 2000s of UFC, to where you're a one trick pony. So I can at least respect her attempts at getting better with her hands. But I don't see her doing very well with this, because Silva at least has decent hands in just coming into the fucking sport.
I can understand that. I don't know. I really think it's going to depend on who's been making the most of their lockdown free time. The good news is, regardless of how that one plays out, the co-main event it's got a lot of potential for oh shit placed squarely within it. Nikita Krylov versus Magomed Ankalaev. Excuse me. Nikita Krylov is one of those dudes that you just have no fucking idea what he's going to do, because he is a very capable striker. He is dangerous from the ground. He can also strike from the ground, but his submission game from the ground is also very sneaky, and he's deceptively strong. He doesn't look like one of those big shredded motherfuckers, but then you see him put hands on a motherfucker in the cage, and you see people like, oh damn, as he's shoving you back against the fucking cage while he pummels you and then throws you down and beats the shit out of you. The issue is that Magomed has basically come out of nowhere and proven himself to be the strong dude stopper. He shut Kuntalaba the fuck down. Everyone was saying, you know, the first time was just a fluke. The first time was, you know, Ian Kuntalaba playing, which he clearly was playing possum. But then we saw in the second that he probably didn't need to. If he would have played a little sloppier for another 5 seconds without Kevin McCarthy jumping in the fucking way, he really would have got laid the fuck out like he did in that second time. The bad part is that now we don't know if Magomed is just a Derek Lewis-esque carries the big power throughout the fight kind of dude, or if Ian Kuntalaba just really got him that fired up that he didn't fucking care and he wanted to put that motherfucker to sleep. After all the bullshit that he had been through and having to go through that rematch again, it would be understandable if he had completely just thrown caution to the wind so that he could put Ian Kuntalaba on his fucking back, which he did. I think this one is going to be, I think this one is going to be a lot more interesting than people are giving it credit for. This one is kind of the dark horse fight of the card, in my opinion. It's not necessarily two of the most recognizable household names, but stylistically between these two dudes, it's got the most oh shit aside from the actual main event, in my opinion. I've got nothing against either one of these guys, and realistically, with the two very different styles that they bring, I think it could honestly go either direction. We have seen both of them be a little hit and miss, but we have seen both of them leave our jaws in our fucking laps on multiple occasions now. So I think this really is a pick'em fight. This is just going to be who can come in there with the fucking mouthpiece bit down on, stick with the game plan, or adapt when it doesn't work and just be the better fighter in the moment. And I can't honestly tell you who I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a great fight, but I don't have an honest opinion either way on who I think's got the better advantage here.
I'll say it. I think Ankalov's got this all day. As much as I like Nikita Krylov, he's been rather hot and cold lately. He'll win 2 fights, lose a fight, win a fight, lose a fight, win 2 fights,
right,
lose a fight. He hasn't been consistent. However, Magomed, on the other hand, he has been consistent. His only stumble was his first fight in the UFC. And that was against the Bear Jew. The Bear Jew had already been in here for a while, so he had the experience on his side. And that fight went to decision. After that, we've seen submission wins, knockout wins, and even a decision win. Unanimous decision, not a split or anything like that. Ankalov's been a fucking man who's a force to be reckoned with. And I think in this case, Kid Krylov might have a little bit more to chew than his mouth can handle, unfortunately. Oh, don't get me wrong. Kid Krylov still has quite a few bag of tricks, but he's lost to some guys where you really thought he shouldn't have lost. But he's managed to pull that off. So I don't have as much faith in Krylov as I used to. I think this is that new breed of fighter coming in, Enclave, and he's just getting better. And let's just say, technically, he has 5 wins in the UFC. Unless Nick's the one because it was a weird fucking stoppage. That's still 4 in a row that showed he's an absolute fucking animal. To be honest, I think this train is just getting rolling. With only 1 professional loss, and that's your first one coming into the UFC against a very good Paul Craig. And you went to decision with him. I think he's a different breed of animal here, and I think we're just going to see it because he carries the knockout power. He has submissions, and he can go the distance and win too. So, I mean, I think this is Enclave's fight to lose.
I tend to agree with you. I think Nikita, I mean, he can take some shots. So, I mean, there is that. He'll walk through something to try and get to where he's going. And I think that's probably wind up being his downfall. I don't see a knockout or anything like that because Nikita Krylov's, he's a pretty durable dude. But I mean, I could totally see him walking himself into a takedown and a submission, like easily, just trying to get, like, he thinks he's going to get a knockout and he wanders into something. Next thing you know, he's on his back tapping to the lights and not really knowing what happened to him. So yeah, I agree. I think this is Magomed's, I think it's his fight to lose.
All right, so I guess I'm the heel for this one. So for the fight itself, Magomed he's a pretty good fighter. His only downfall is this isn't early days of UFC. This isn't the early 2000s. This is 2021. He's a fucking one-trick pony. He has little to no ground game shit. Like his last submission victory period was 2014. That's going off of his entire fight record. So it's been many of years since he's actually done anything on the ground. That's kind of that one-trick pony status, right? If this isn't early 2000s, that shit just doesn't work. Nikita Krylov, he's had his ups and downs, but he's also going against much, much stiffer competition. He's gone up against the fucking top dogs of the fucking weight class. People that are now in line to be fucking number one contenders, the number one contender, fucking top 5s, top 3 fighters. Magomed hasn't fucked around with that. Magomed isn't as well-rounded as what Nikita Krylov is. If Nikita Krylov can put you to sleep standing up, take you to the ground, fuck you up against the cage, any way, shape, or form, Krylov can stop you. So for that, I'm going to go with Krylov on this. And since Magomed's come into the UFC, he has, I'm going to be that guy. He has hype that I don't think he deserves as an amateur. And in Russia, he absolutely has a fuckload of hype. But coming into the UFC, his only notable victory, like actual notable victory over somebody that has faced top dog contenders, is Kuntalaba. But Kuntalaba's been on a downfall for a while. He has some hype that isn't, that at least I think myself, is undeserved as a professional in the UFC. But for the fight Saturday, I see Krylov pulling something off.
there's worse things to do than to bet in favor of Nikita Krylov, I'll say. That he's another Derek Lewis-esque dude that he carries power late too. He doesn't always use his big power shots because he's got a pretty full tool bag, but he carries some power late too. So it could get interesting if Magomed can't really get his game plan working, or if he gets sloppy. We've seen Krylov be able to put some big names on their ass when they don't pay attention. So it's going to be interesting either way to see how that one shakes loose. That, though, will bring us to the interesting looking foreign delicacy that they tell you is meat. That is our main event for the evening. The marquee matchup, the namesake of the evening, Jairzinho Rosenstroick versus Cyril Gane. This is a very interesting matchup for a couple of different reasons. Cyril Gane, for those of you who don't know, was Francis Ngannou's training partner for multiple years. They have since basically had a falling out and gone their separate ways, but they are both very large, very in shape gentlemen. I kind of feel like Cyril Gane is the more well-rounded of the two, where Ngannou is very much more focused on his power striking, and Cyril Gane is almost more focused on his grappling and his submission work, but still has the striking ability to stand and bang with Francis Ngannou for multiple years, which is unto itself a feat worth acknowledging, in my opinion. The issue comes in when you look at Jairzinho Rozenstruik, because yes, he is a heavyweight, but he is one of the few heavyweights that we have seen who didn't start in MMA, didn't start in wrestling, didn't come from a grappling background. He's a fucking kickboxer. He is a heavyweight kickboxing world champion. So he's got the ability to take a shot. The caveat to that is that we have also seen that with the right shot, he can get his lights turned the fuck off with the quickness, i.e. Cyril's former training partner. This match, I feel, is going to come down to, can Cyril Gane initiate and then control the grappling of this match? We have seen that Jairzinho Rozenstruik, for a heavyweight, still has decent ground game. But it's just that. It's decent ground game. We have seen Cyril Gane have spectacular ground game. We've seen him have great striking, but we've seen that great striking doesn't always get you past Rozenstruik. It can, if you do it right. If you run fast enough and you hit him enough times in a short enough span of time, by the time you get to that other side of the cage, he'll be unconscious if you did it correct. But we've also only seen that work one time against him. And Rosenstroik's not the kind of guy that when you have a hole that glaring in your game, you just leave it and focus on what you already know how to do. He's a smart fella. I'm fairly confident he's put in a good deal of work since he fought and got melted, specifically to tighten up his striking. Considering he's a former kickboxer, I'm pretty sure he just needed a little bit of a refresher course to kind of get back into the groove and focus on it a little more to make sure it was a conscious implement in his game. The issue is that Cyril Gane doesn't just have one of those things that he has to watch out for. Cyril Gane has all of those things that he has to watch out for, because he can rush you and hit you as hard and as fast as Francis did. And if that doesn't work, he can take you to the ground, out-grapple the fuck out of you, and then submit you, which we've seen Rozenstruik have problems with. The real question here is, what does Jairzinho have that Cyril isn't capable of defending against? And the problem is I don't have an answer to write down in that column. Cyril's a good enough striker. He can stand on his feet with Jairzinho. He's more than a good enough grappler. If Jairzinho tries to get crazy, he can handle his own, stuff it if he needs to, convert it and take over if he has to. He is more than a capable enough submission artist. If it goes to the ground and Jairzinho sloppy, he can get the fight ended very quick with precision. I don't really think that there's a whole lot on the other side of that column that you could say that Jairzinho could do that Cyril won't have some kind of an answer for. And that really doesn't leave me a whole lot of place to put my hope in Biggie Boy. And I got nothing against him. I fucking love that there's a heavyweight kickboxer in the fucking UFC kicking ass and taking names. But at the same time, like we've said, it's not 2001 anymore. You can't just be good at something. You have to be good at everything. And Cyril is. But Jairzinho isn't. And I think that that's going to be the difference here, is that Cyril has more tools that he can choose from in the way that he chooses to take this fight than Jairzinho does. And not that the tools that Jairzinho has are anything to be minimized, but sometimes it's just having a wider variety of tricks than to having the perfect one. And I think that's what Gane's got going for him. I think Biggie Boy gets his ass handed to him. I don't think it's an easy match, but I think Cyril Gane comes out with his hand raised Saturday night.
One thing we know about Cyril Gane is he's a world level striker. Like, he is so fucking smooth, and it's not just in the first round. Like, he's that smooth in the fifth. Yeah, and it's just he's always moving. He's always doing something a little bit unorthodox, and it's just he's a really, really exciting fighter to watch. I think, like, I remember the first time all of us saw him, we're just like, where the fuck has this dude been? Like, this is crazy what this dude's doing. Like, he's just moving, like, and it's so smooth, and you don't see all the subtlety of the things that he's doing in the fight until you go back and watch replays of what he's doing. Leading people into shots. Like, he's crazy good. He's crazy good. And that alone, I would say, probably takes him over the top of Rozenstruik, who's always carried a lot of power. But he's got some rough spots in this game. But he's also, I mean, he's a world-class striker in his own right. He's just got a couple more rough spots that Cyril Gane has closed up years ago. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, it's been a little bit since we've seen Rozenstruik. Hadn't been that long since we saw Cyril Gane. So I'm right now, I mean, until Cyril Gane shows me something that I can't disagree with, I'm going to keep picking him. I think he's that good. Just the way I've seen him move around the last couple of fights, just the way he's taken people apart at will. I'm gonna stick with Cyril Gane on this one.
Yeah, the one thing I have to say about this fight is do not fucking blink, because this doesn't get outside of the first. I don't think somebody's gonna go to sleep. Whether it's Cyril Gane or Rozenstruik, I don't fucking know. If I had to bet money, I think it's Rozenstruik. However, because of the power that these two hold, they are both in this heavyweight division falling under the pretenses of fucking, who do we have in heavyweight right now? You got Francis Ngannou, one strike, fucking you're done KO power. Derek Lewis, one strike, you're done power. These two, one strike, you're done power. Now, the one thing that we have seen here that I will say is a feather in the cap of Rozenstruik. He carries knockout power all the way to the end of a fight. Because anybody who remembers watched the Explode My Lip Alistair Overeem fight, that happened at the end of the 5th round when that power came through and ended that fight. So the dude carries it the whole way through. We haven't seen Cyril Gane go the distance yet because he hasn't had to. Because, I mean, when you're putting people fucking out, you don't have to go the full distance. And obviously his striking's on point if he trained with Francis Ngannou for so long, because you're not going to be able to train with somebody like that or be a sparring partner if your striking isn't on point with somebody who hits that fucking hard. You'd have been gone a long time ago. So I say in the first round, I think Cyril Gane gets it done. I think we see Rozenstruik take another L here via KO, and I think Cyril Gane shakes up that top 5 again. Because, you know, if we haven't had enough shaking up of the top 5 right now. In fact, what would probably be a really good fight, Cyril Gane wins this. This might be the fight where they go, you know what? You fight Curtis Blades. I could see that as being a good matchup, and so, you know,
That would be a fight. That would be a great fight.
Yeah. That's just my thought. I think Cyril Gane gets it done though.
Yeah, I'm just gonna follow you guys because Gane is more well rounded than what Rozenstruik is. The only way I could see Gane having a lot of trouble is whenever he starts to get into deeper water, because you really haven't seen Gane in deep water. So if Rozenstruik can stay off the ground and stay away from Gane's power strikes, there is a possibility to where we can get into some deep water late in the 3rd, 4th round. And if that were to happen, which I doubt it will, that's whenever Rosenstruik could really shine, because he's gone the distance. He's gone a lot deeper than what you've seen Cyril Gane get into. That's one of the ways I absolutely could see Rozenstruik getting a W. But with the power that the power, accuracy, and precision that Cyril has, I don't doubt this won't see the end of the first round. I think as well, Gane is strong enough, quick enough, and smooth enough that he's going to get the W within that first round.
I could definitely see that possibility. Jairzinho has a tendency to hang his chin out a little bit more than he probably should. That's definitely how Francis fucking melted him. And since we know Cyril's got that similar power, that would be a bad fucking idea to do here, I think.
And one thing that's kind of shocking is, for being in heavyweight, Rosenstruik doesn't eat a lot of shots. Like a lot of the pretty much the rest of that upper echelon of heavyweight does. Rosenstruik doesn't eat a whole lot of shots.
Click the goddamn unmute button. It didn't unmute. The interesting thing about this matchup is that as much as we can see it going 8 different ways, there's no way to know for sure how this is going to play out without watching Saturday night. That being said, we are going to go ahead and call that all for this particular episode here. So before we get out of here, I do want to thank these fine gentlemen for taking part in the shenanigans and shit talking with me here. So if at this point somebody needs to know a regimen on how to add weight to themselves to get a fight, but still not add facial hair. How can they get a hold of you and get some tips, RJ?
Like, it's easier to fucking add weight than hair, cunt. Okay? It's a lot easier. I just eat more and go to the gym more often. Growing facial hair, I have to not want to shave my face. And have testosterone, which clearly is lacking somehow. But if you would like to find out how I used to have to eat to be able to make weight back when I was a 135er, not whenever I'm a in the 140 range to 150s now, back when I was a 125 kid. You know, always go over there at RJ MMA Official and hit me up. Come talk some shit and make fun of me for the lack of follicleness on my face. But thank you for having me, like always, man.
Either way, thank you very much for being here. We do always appreciate you making time to come on our little shit show here. And at this point, I know it's been a little bit touch and go because, you know, weather and the world, but it is getting back to warmer. We are starting to get vaccines in arms. I think it is about time that we make sure the folks know how they can get involved in the Hug a Chailathon that we are trying to get going here. Fresh 03, how can they do that if they want to talk to you after the show?
You can find me at youtube.com/fresh03. We're going to be on a 2-week time off. We do have some folks covering at least one of the shows a week, so there will be at least some activity on my channel. But I'm going to be offline in the woods, moving / attempting to find Uncle Chael. We've all just moved into phase 2 over here on the west side of the country, so we should have some open events where he may show up. I was very close to catching him at the Apex, but he got away and he's back in the Portland area. So we're just now moving into phase 2. So maybe we can find him at a nice 25% open restaurant or something.
Always a good possibility. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Very much appreciated.
Always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you guys again in a couple weeks.
Hell yeah, from the new digs.
Yeah, it's going to be sick.
And last but most certainly not least, at this point, now that it is getting closer to spring and things are thawing out and they may start getting trails cleared up towards the Kenosha Way, if somebody wants to bravely venture themselves out and find themselves a wild Ben, maybe get themselves some delicious cheese on the way up there, how could somebody get a hold of you after the show and get a little instruction there, Mr. Golf T Vapes?
Catch me on Wednesday nights right here on the YouTubes, 9:30 Central Time. Every week without miss unless something fucking crazy happens. Or you can shoot me a message on the Instagrams. So I'll be there. I'll gladly give you directions. And if you're nice, I might even just toss you a bag of cards on the way by.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Always appreciated. And with that, we are going to call it all for this particular episode, folks. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Remember, if you are catching this on the video portion, you can also catch it Instagram influencer distraction free in the all audio format over on anchor.fm/I'm No Joe. If, on the other hand, you are hearing this over on Anchor or through your podcast platform consumption of choice, fret not, you can also see how fucking ridiculously we look when we say the ridiculous things that we say over on youtube.com/ there's a bunch of gibberish. It's all in the description. It's all in the links. Everywhere is everywhere. I'm No Joe is all over on the goddamn internet. And if you are here, obviously you have found us. So help share an episode, help a friend find their way to us. If you enjoy what we do, give us a thumbs up. We appreciate that. Make sure the little bell is on so you don't miss an episode. On the other hand, if we're just a couple of goofballs and some young kid we keep letting in, talking out our ass without knowing what we're saying, give us a thumbs down because we earned it and we won't dispute it. That being said, though, we are going to call that all for this evening. So until next time, folks, remember, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything, unless you think that's a beard.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye?